just waiting for you to do.
Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Victor Lucia, president and founder of Brooklyn Fishing Club. I'm here with a few more people than usual today, which is an awesome thing. I have Kimberly Lee to my left. I have Spiro all the way in from Australia. I have Natasha. I have Ian. And we're going to be talking about a variety of different subjects, obviously involving fishing, urban fishing, fishing in different parts of the planet. And we're going to kick it off. I'm going to start by introducing Kim. Kim, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? How you started fishing, whatever you want to say.
Well, I really got into fishing about 3 years ago. My older cousin, who I look up to like an older brother, would take me out once a year for a bit. And currently I do a lot of freshwater fishing, saltwater fishing. I hop around throughout the boroughs of New York City a lot. Just love meeting a bunch of different people.
Spiro, welcome to New York City, all the way here from Australia. How you doing, man?
I'm very good. Very excited to be here, actually. A bit surreal, but it's amazing.
It is surreal, right?
Yeah.
I've known you for going on 5 years via Instagram. I think you were one of our first followers on the Brooklyn Fishing Club page, and now we're finally meeting for the first time. So it is definitely surreal. Tell us a little bit about yourself, type of fishing you do, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been fishing pretty much all my life. Pretty much taken from my dad. Used to take me as a kid. I consider fishing a lifestyle. I consider it my meditation. So, it's part of my DNA. So I love my saltwater fishing. I'm a big surf fisherman. I fish in a big city of Sydney. So I think there's similarities there with the Brooklyn Fishing Club in terms of, the urbanization fishing. But absolutely, I can't get enough of it. A week goes past. I need my fishing fix every week. The struggle is real.
I could definitely relate. And Natasha, the legendary fly fisher woman of New York City. How you doing?
I'm well. I wouldn't say legendary. It's actually funny your name's Spiro. I got into fishing. I had a friend named Spiro who was an oil painter, and I wanted to learn to oil paint, and he ended up passing away suddenly before I ever learned. And so I was like, shit, there's all this stuff that I want to learn to do, and time waits for nobody. So I reached out to my uncle who lives up in Connecticut. He fly fishes. I was like, let me try it. I've always been super interested because it looks kind of crazy. And so I went and fell in love with it. I mean, I fished the Farmington the first time. I caught 2 trout, and the next 7 times I fished it, I was skunked. I still have yet to catch a fish out of that river again, which is pretty funny. But I've been fishing consistently for, I think similar to Kim, probably about 3 years. Fish primarily the parks in New York City, which surprises people, and primarily fly fishing. I mean, I've used normal gear a couple times, but I haven't really caught much on it.
Gotcha. And to my right is one of my best friends, if not my best friend from back in the day. We go way, way, way back. Way, way, way back. Ian, a.k.a. Mr. Beats. He's the one responsible for the intro and outro beat on our podcast. He happens to be in town from Florida today. Egon, you want to say a few words?
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I've known Vic for a long time. I've seen him grow as an individual and really get into his fishing and his club, and it's just a pleasure to be here. I'm here all the way from Florida to support Vic and hear about some fishing today.
Cool. All right, so where do you guys feel like starting out? Because we've got quite a diverse group here, so anybody wants to jump in, any stories they have recently. I'm kind of blanking here. I had a really long day. I didn't get to prep many questions.
Can you tell us a little bit about, I saw you post something about hosting an urban fishing meetup in New York.
Oh, yeah. So
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to imitate the European urban fishing convention that I went to last summer. And I'd like to do the same thing here in the U.S. this summer. And I've invited any urban fishing crew in America to come fish with us. We're probably going to be looking at a date either at the end of June, beginning of July, and we're just going to try to get as many urban fishing crews together as possible and just unite this community that's bigger than New York City. It's obviously a worldwide thing. Other countries, other crews from other countries are definitely invited, but I really want it to be focused on the urban fishing crews in America, because there's so many. You've got the Chicago Fishing Club. You've got guys that fish in L.A., Miami, fishing around Atlanta. I mean, it just goes on and on. You know, wherever water meets a city, you're going to find urban anglers. And I know they're all out there, and I want to get them all together and have some fun and fish and trade stories and maybe get all of them on the podcast if we could buy a few more mics. But
That's awesome.
we'll see what happens. But let's hear a little bit about your experiences, specifically Kim and Natasha, in fishing New York City. What are like some of your most memorable moments fishing here?
All right. Well, two of my favorites. One of which was the night that we were fishing in Brooklyn with a few members from the club. Caught some epic stripers from shore. Saw a lot of bunker splashing topwater. Yeah, it was like a few nights past a peak of the supermoon. It was amazing. So that's, I don't know, the sense of community and just everyone going bonkers over the activity is just unreal from our waters. So that's one. The other is...
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah, go on.
Can we talk a little bit more about that night? Because that's like an infamous night in the history
Yeah,
of the
I wasn't
club.
sure how much...
No, let's talk about it. Let's get into it.
I kept it vague.
Let's get into it. Because that night actually caused a little bit of a beef between us and another fishing crew, which was totally unnecessary on their part. You wanna tell your side of it?
I mean, we caught bass. I
Caught
think
5, right?
I can't remember how many.
Yeah,
It was a really good number.
It was 5 up to 42 inches. It was a really good night.
Wow.
A lot of keepers, many of which were bled out on the pier, and I do acknowledge responsibility in creating mess and cleaning up that mess. So, you know, bleeding out fish, that's going to be a messy situation. Ideally, you rinse the area off afterwards. We didn't do that in the time frame that it should have been done. Again, acknowledging that
We made a
there will
mistake.
be, yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, I, as a fisherman who was there that night, I take full responsibility as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, but, you know, I'm someone who can own up to that and communicate wrongdoings. You know, I'm not perfect.
Yeah. So I mean, what happened that night was we caught 5 fish up to 42 inches. We had a group of about 6 of us, I think. Everybody went home with a fish, and we bled the fish out on the pier. There was a lot of blood on the pier. It's a ferry pier that goes from Brooklyn to Manhattan, so it's a commuter pier. And so it was a Sunday night, and the next morning, the pier looked like there had been a triple homicide on it. And we caught some flack from the local guys about it, but, you know, all they really had to do was hit me up and say, listen, you guys made a mess, you should have cleaned it up, this and that. Instead, I got hit with like 2 or 3 passive-aggressive emails, texts, this and that. Long story short, Kim and I went back to the pier within 24 hours. We scrubbed it down, scrubbed it clean, and we made things right.
Yeah, it's just one guy who likes to talk smack behind our backs without communicating to me after I reached out to him, like, you know, what we did was... Are we allowed to curse on here or not?
Yeah, fuck
All right,
yeah.
so, you know, like, what we did was, you know, shitty. It wasn't cool. You know, just chose to see my message and just did not say anything. And then instead we find out he's talking smack about our crew. like that's bullshit.
Like saying stuff like we poached like
Oh yeah, no.
11-inch stripers and threw 50 of them in a
Yeah,
bucket.
so a lot of exaggeration, drama.
Not to mention, he had a striper carcass, a filleted striper carcass, nailed to the sign that you walk past when you get off the pier. So I think it was less about us actually making a mess and more so about us out fishing them on their home turf. But that's just my humble opinion. But yeah, that guy is definitely an internet troll. We won't even say his name, but I managed to find him in real life recently, and I got to talk to him. And I don't think
Had a
he'll-
completely different personality after
Oh
that.
yeah, I don't think he'll be saying anything else anytime soon. So yeah, but that was an interesting experience. What was the other one you were thinking of?
The other one is more sentimental to me because I don't know. I'm a sucker for people who cherish communities, and actually about a year ago, Thanksgiving, I schlepped out to Staten Island just in hopes of catching a keeper tog, bring back to the family. Bumped into Jose, who's an OG of the club. Yep. I didn't catch any keepers, caught a bunch of shorts. He caught a keeper. And instead of bringing it to his plans, his Thanksgiving plans, he generously gave it to me. Yeah, he's a bit of a hard ass, and I say that like lovingly, but he's awesome. I love him, so that was just a great time, and like the epitome of like the family essence of Brooklyn Fishing Club.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. How about you, Natasha?
I guess I think the most recent, so I typically for the longest time have fished with like a 3-weight setup, which is like a ultra light. I mean, fine for small river trout fishing, but anything larger is people always laugh at me. I went fishing for carp. I started fishing for carp up in Central Park, and I actually bought a 5-weight because I hooked into a couple and it was taking a while to land them. So I got a 5-weight, and I went to test out the 5-weight, and I caught a giant mirror carp. It was my first mirror carp, and I happened to have my buddy Nick, who's a photographer, with me, and he snapped a photo where I'm like hoisting this fish, and there's like the entire background of Bethesda Fountain and people taking pictures,
I remember that.
which is like
epic shot.
Yeah, it
It's a
feels
great
very
one.
New York.
Yeah.
So that's the most recent, but I think last year about this time, so fishing in the parks, people usually look at you a little funny, and it was I think it was the last outing I had last year in the parks, like end of November maybe, and I on the 3-weight I hooked for me a decent bass, like maybe I don't know 16, 17 inches, like largemouth.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I was fishing an area, I'll be honest, you're not supposed to be fishing in Prospect Park, and I saw a Parks van roll around as I'm hooked up, so I'm like, oh man, like I'm gonna definitely get yelled at, maybe get fined or something, right? But whatever. So I'm like landing this fish, and the van stops, and 2 people hop out, and they come over, they're like, yo, you gonna eat that for dinner? Can we take a picture? And I didn't even know what to say. I was like, don't you work for the park? And they're like, yeah, but like that's a big fish. It's like, all right, no, I'm letting him go, So it was funny because I got a picture with the fish, but they were taking pictures. Didn't say anything about the fact I wasn't supposed to be fishing there, and just like rolled off. But I think that's pretty typical of New York. Like most people are curious and just want to ask questions or take pictures, and then kind of wander off like laughing at you.
It's an epic reaction.
Yeah.
I love that.
I remember you reminded me of one experience I had fishing by the fountain in Central Park, where I caught a carp, and as I'm reeling it in, I just got swarmed by people, and like kids are like, "Is it a shark?" I'm like, "What?" But yeah, you definitely get a certain type of reaction from people when they see you fishing around here, for sure.
Yeah, it's fun.
Like, can you eat it? Can you, like, why are you doing it if you can't eat it? I've also heard stories from some of the people in the club about, people that have harassed them about fishing. Has that ever happened to either of you?
I had one where I could feel it coming, and I just like completely diffused it. And this woman started asking questions like, "Does it hurt?" And I fish tiny little hooks, which helps, and I pinch them. Like I don't ever fish barbed, and so I was kind of like, well, it's like getting your lip pierced or your ears pierced. And I don't think she expected that because she just kind of looked at me and I was like, here's the hook. It's like so small she could hardly see it. And I think she just lost any steam. But yeah, there's been a few times you can tell people are ready to just like tell you what they think regardless of, honestly, I love the fish way more than they could love the fish. I am much more interested in protecting them and having them be healthy and survive so I can catch them again. But that doesn't really seem to register with people who, worry about the fish's feelings or whatever.
Yeah, and it's, trying to figure out a formula to catch these fish. It's a passion. It's a hobby. I don't see what the big deal is, where for the most part, especially catch and release, again, we want these fish to go back healthy and be around. I thankfully have not been harassed given the amount of times and places that I've been out, but I was out with Sava, who's a young angler in our club. We were fishing Central Park around that fountain in Central Park one time, and we had a woman who was very preachy. And she was just
What was she saying?
She was saying like, you're hurting these fish. Why are you doing this? And then she felt quiet, for 20 minutes until she had to leave. She said something again, and she was just like quiet. Obviously I chewed her ear off. Like, why don't you back off? This kid is doing his thing. He's hanging out. He's not causing any trouble. Let him leave him alone. So it's just, you have people like that too, but you kind of have to stand your ground and explain our side of it too.
Definitely.
The funny thing is I bet they all eat fish or meat or both.
Absolutely. I'm sure they do.
So because you're visiting, I also just want to ask you stuff. So have you seen any anglers since you've been visiting? Like during your brief visit here, I mean.
You are my first. This group.
No,
I haven't.
all right,
I haven't. No, I haven't. Not yet.
Well, I guess
no, I
like
haven't.
actively.
No, not yet. But interesting the topics you're mentioning because one of my interests today is to find out, for example, we're starting to see a bit of a movement back in Sydney. So anglers starting to unite because there's some politically motivated moves now to enforce marine parks in Sydney. So if you've been monitoring a bit of on Instagram and social media around the east coast of Australia, especially Sydney, you'll see the Stop the Lockout movement. So what's happening now, there's been slowly but surely this move to lock out a lot of areas of Sydney Harbour, the coastline to lock out a lot of anglers based on some greeny kind of ideology. And for the first time in a long time, it's actually unified a lot of anglers across Australia. So there's now this big movement starting where,
Wow.
Because of the things you said as well about we consider ourselves the custodians of our waters. We protect the fish. We know more about it than, we ask for the research when you're imposing these lockouts. What's the research? What have you got? And there is no research. It's a kind of feel-good ideology. There's going to be whales jumping and dolphins, so let's just lock everyone out of the area.
Yeah.
So that's been a big topic for us back home. What you said now about the reactions you get from people now in big cities. Oh, what are you doing? Are you killing the fish? Are you hurting it? So we're actually having to kind of defend that, defend our rights as well.
Yeah.
That's a big thing back home now. And it's actually started in Sydney and it's actually now morphing into a national movement because we've got marine parks everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's growing and they're getting more and more. And we're sort of saying, what's the research, the science behind it? There is no science. It's kind of like a feel-good ideology. So for us, I was interested, New York, it's a big city. Do you guys have the same sort of, bit of movement starting from these kind of green groups that are sort of saying, hey, leave the fish alone. You shouldn't be fishing these areas.
I mean, it's economic too, like a huge part of it. Like, people who hunt and fish support those industries and the conservation.
Absolutely.
And like, if you're going to take it away from us, you mean well, but what you may actually be doing is taking away all the funding for like helping to conserve. Because, everyone's like, oh, save the animals, whatever. But if you ask anyone who says that what the last thing they donated money, like put your money where your mouth is to, I don't think most people have a valid answer for that.
Yeah.
Whereas we pay for licenses. Most of us, I think in the U.S., multiple states every season, you're donating to your local waterways, you're volunteering.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that gets overlooked and they just see what they want to see.
And that was our argument because we pay recreational fishing licenses saying, hold on, we're actually paying, we're being locked out of the waters, we're paying licenses for. What's the rationale? But it's funny because it's had the opposite effect. It's actually united anglers across Australia.
That's
I mean,
great.
I went to a protest rally, for I think the first time in my life. there was 7,000 anglers turned up, right?
Wow.
And it was fully charged, and they reversed decision immediately.
Wow.
Because they were
Wow.
surprised
Amazing.
by the uptake.
Where was
'Cause
the
it went
rally?
spread in Sydney City,
Nice.
in front of Government House, Parliament House. But then media picked up on the story saying, yeah, why are you stopping kids going fishing? What do you want them to be out there, being antisocial when this is a pastime for them? So it actually had the reverse effect in a way. So
Good.
we actually thought, great, it's actually worked. It's backfired on them. And it's actually, now we have the Stop the Lockout group. There's merchandising. Everyone's walking around with Stop the Lockout. So it's kind of formed this, it's not official yet, but I mean, in terms of recognised, but it's actually been good for our scene. Because it's saying, hey, back off, like we care about this. We're all about catch and release as well. We look after our waters, we keep them clean, etc. So it's been a big movement back home.
Yeah, that's interesting because when I was in Paris, the main fishing crew in Paris is called French Touch Fishing, and they're dealing with a similar issue where people are trying to prevent recreational fishermen from fishing, mainly because they think that they're hurting the fish because it's all catch and release. No one's eating fish out of the water around Paris. It's catch and release. That's it. So a lot of guys over there have begun calling themselves street fishing activists, and they're fighting back similarly to the way you guys are fighting back.
And I'm glad because, sorry, I'll take back to what you told me before. I did see some fishermen. I was in Santa Monica yesterday. I'm trying to get my time bearings. And actually it was great to see a jetty where you had, I think it was Veterans Day as well, right? So a lot of people on the jetty, all sorts of different people, but you had fishermen all amongst it and everyone was getting along just fine. It's actually, you won't see that back home these days anymore because the jetties are locked out of fishermen, they're banned. So it's
Wow.
actually great to see that here, to think, hey, everyone can still get along, you can catch fish, you can be out there having your lunch and everyone's just getting along on the pier. And that's something we're seeing less and less back home, unfortunately.
Wow.
So-
So do you think some of these places that have been locked out, do you think they'll be reopened now that you guys are fighting back?
We just know that because it's a politically charged movement and then they hold the balance of power, that we have to keep fighting it. And we have to form ourselves into some type of union, some type
Yeah.
of a proper body that we can basically counteract this because it's not going to go anyway anytime soon. We can just abate it, but it'll keep coming up. So, and it's actually made us get organised for once in our lives back home in terms of a recreational fishing group. We have to get organised. Fishermen bicker and carry on those groups and different groups. It's actually unified everyone, and we have to keep fighting that now.
What is the government's rationale behind it? I mean,
It's completely politically motivated because the Green parties there hold the balance of power in the actual Legislative Council. So if they want lockouts and that's what they want, they'll basically pass on. So the other two major parties in our government will basically give in to something to get some Green votes. So it's completely politically motivated. Because there is no science behind the research.
Yeah.
If you fish Sydney Harbour now, I'm going to tell you it is healthier than ever. I mean, commercial fishing was, all commercial licenses were bought out about 10 years ago now, and Sydney Harbour is absolutely thriving. It's crazy. The fishing's phenomenal, right? So our argument is, well, hold on a sec, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Why do you want marine parks to protect what exactly?
Yeah.
It's a thriving ecosystem.
yeah. What types of fish can you catch in Sydney Harbour?
If you are a boat-based angler in Sydney, you are absolutely chasing yellowtail kingfish, which you guys have, I think, called yellowtail here.
Yeah, on
right?
the West Coast. We don't have
And they're
them over here.
they're getting bigger and bigger every year. And this is the time you get, when I say bigger, we're talking metre plus fish, right? So, which will be equivalent of your 20 pounds, 30 pounders.
Yeah.
But that is number one this time of year inside the harbour.
In terms of the water quality in the harbour, are the fish safe to eat?
Absolutely in the lower reaches, not so much in the upper reaches, where it's, years of industrial companies and waste, etc. It's very healthy. There's a lot of fish there, but I wouldn't be eating fish from the upper system of the Sydney Harbour. Lower system, absolutely fine.
Kim, in relation to like the New York Harbor, would you kind of like see a parallel there? Like you would eat a fish from, like a fish that was caught closer to the Verrazano, as opposed to a fish that was caught closer to, let's say, Randall's Island?
I I'm gonna be honest. I don't know the waters well enough around Randall's Bit. I mean, the more open it is, the better I feel about it. And also being wary of the super fun locations. That's something important as well.
It's funny that you mentioned the super fun locations because the Gowanus Canal is a super fun location. And they just came out with some rule. I think we were talking about it last weekend at that event where they're trying to prohibit fishing in the super fun location. And they don't really have any rationale behind that either because
I wasn't
it's
aware.
not like anybody is going to eat a fish out of the Gowanus Canal, but you could still safely catch one without anything impacting your health. But they're trying to outlaw fishing on the Gowanus, which is kind of ridiculous, in my opinion.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
And they're already posting signs, so.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So.
I wanted to ask you, sorry, hopping back. How do the communities in Australia communicate? Like Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, it's absolutely Instagram these days, but also Facebook, both those two social media channels. So mostly Instagram, but I would say there's a fair chunk on Facebook as well. So it's a double-edged sword. There's a whole group of fishermen who think that's the worst thing to ever happen, fishing social media. You get away with my spots, and there is one particular, I think you call it a buoy here in America, the buoys. We call them buoys in the harbour, little markers where.
Yeah.
There's one very close to the harbour bridge. If you know the Sydney Harbour Bridge, just off it, there's a little red one that's full of meter plus kingfish at the moment. And any given day, there's about 30 boats hovering around it, which is like, Jesus, there's a weekday, there's 30 boats on it. Imagine the weekend.
Yeah.
So that's that's social media for it. Everyone knows the
Parking lot.
kingfish are on.
Yeah.
So it's like, give up. So it's a double-edged sword, right? But it's absolutely social media, most definitely.
Do you guys use the term spot burning in Australia? When Kim, do you want to explain spot burning?
It's basically just revealing where the money spot is to catch fish, and sharing that with others, and then more anglers come to that money spot, and it's overfished.
It's pretty common. I mean,
Do you guys have a term for that in Australia?
not really, but I mean, or we call them honey holes.
Yeah,
The old
yeah.
honey hole. But the reality is everyone knows every honey hole in Sydney these days. But what it is also, it depends on the species. Okay, if you're into your, what we call back home, the mulloway or the croakers, similar to your kind of, I'd say, sea bass or the
weak
red
fish,
drum,
kinda?
the croaker family.
Yeah, it's
So
kind of
they're
like
very
a weak
secretive.
fish mixed with a red drum that gets massive. Right?
That is absolutely that's a secretive kind of community that is
Yeah.
really low key because, they're very sought after.
Yeah.
So they're the guys that kind of, in the middle of the night, no lights, bats in the night, move around, and as soon as you rock up, they'll pack up and leave. So, okay, that's what we call, a mulloway fisherman sitting there. He's off. He's not going to give you spot away. So, but in general, there is no secret spots anymore. Not in Sydney Harbour, that's for sure.
So in America, what was I gonna say? We call anglers that are like really good, like really seasoned veterans. We call them Sharpies. Do you guys have a term for guys like that in Australia?
We usually just say gun anglers.
Gun
He's
anglers.
a gun. Yep.
He's a gun.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Gun angler. It's interesting because we also call there's the social media fisher these days. They're the guys that basically, shortcuts straight to the top, want to know. And then there's the old school guys that, there's the generation like me that grew up collecting magazines, subscribing to fishing magazines, learning and being awed by the old photos. And there's the generation that's come very quick, social media, hey, I want to know what's the spots, what's the tactics, and haven't done their hard yards, right?
Yeah.
So, but in saying that, I think, with the social media has also made a lot of good fishermen these days, like it or not. I mean, they basically have fast track to success.
Yeah.
The lures we have these days, these soft plastics and all these, we have crazy range of baits, right, and technology these days. So, I've seen a lot of young guys that are very good anglers and they're pretty recent, right, but they've actually excelled very quickly. So that rubs up some of the older guys a bit. So the new generation coming through and, and they've got money to burn, they buy really good gear, and it just makes for a very kind of like a crowded fishing space. But that's why I do, I consider myself a bit of a Dracula, and I'm fishing very late at night. I'm on the beach when there's no one else there, right?
The non-human hours.
And I enjoy it. You know, it's my peace. I go out there, I look at the moon. You know, it's maybe it's midnight, maybe it's 1 a.m. I'm fishing the tides. There's no one around me, but that brings me actually enjoyment. Right?
Yeah.
Striper fishing in the Northeast here too.
Yeah, it's pretty similar.
And there's a lot of us like that, right? And everyone keeps their own space, and it's a little bit of a, you know, underground community.
Yeah.
And we don't fish daylight hours. We're like, I'm not going to get out there. It's not worth my while, right?
Nah.
Forget it.
Is the mulloway a nocturnal predator?
Funny enough, it is on the beaches, but certain surf beaches will hold them during the day. But absolutely most of your gun mulloway anglers are night fishermen, most definitely. But there's spots during the day, you know, these days with these supersonic kind of sounders and structure scans. You know, you turn up to a spot and you see them, you can't miss them, right? Like, well, there they are, they're on the structure scan. I'm not going to miss, right? And there's a lot of guys getting them during the day because of the technology that available to them, especially if you're a boat angler, right?
Yeah.
You've got all the bells and whistles. You can't miss the fish. There they are. I see them.
Yeah, I wanted to
them.
ask you if there's a mentality there, something that we have here. Sometimes people say boat fish don't count. Do people feel that way over there?
I'm a bit like that with mulloway. So I have a lot of friends, you know, with they have boats, they get a lot of mulloway, and I don't say this to be arrogant to you guys, but I don't consider it as good as the one caught off the surf.
Right.
So because the surf angler out there for his mulloway, and they're usually the much bigger off the surf, you know, he's put in a hell of a lot of hours, right? He's really made. Whereas the boat, because it's a bit easier, right? You've got your scan, you've turned up to a known mark, you see 20 fish sitting on top of each other. Hey, you're going to get a fish. So, yeah, nice fish. Whereas, you know, a person that gets a 80-pounder off the beach, you know, that's a statement. That's like the holy grail.
Yeah.
So in saying that, yeah, I have a lot of friends who ask me to come along. I won't go with them, you know, to go out there. So I'm not going to sit all night in a boat, you know, sit there and go, okay, caught a couple. I'd rather do my own thing. So,
That's cool. That's really respectable.
yeah.
Natasha, do you think that you'll get out on a boat for fly fishing saltwater?
All right, I know
Albies,
there's
stripers.
a captain. So I've been hanging out a little bit with the urban angler guys. I don't know if you guys know Dennis. I think you know him, right? His Instagram's like bacalao something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you mention him. He was actually at the first ever club meeting. I know Dennis. I think he just kind of decided to do his own thing. But yeah, he's cool.
But so I just started fly tying. I'll be honest, the salt kind of makes me a little nervous. I find it really interesting, and the species it opens up is super enticing. But kind of like fishing for trout, it's like such an effort to put in. Like you're up at the crack of dawn. It's like a couple-hour commute sometimes, especially without a car.
Yeah.
There's a lot of effort that goes into it, and I think with where my life's been at this last year, like work's been super busy, like weekends are super sacred. It's hard to like dedicate that time. I mean, I would love to, you know, be up in the Catskills, fly fishing tiny streams every weekend. I honestly this season don't think I stepped in I've went up to Croton once, but like that's it. So I would love to catch a striper. I don't know on the boat. I mean, I think maybe this spring run I'll try out of like Greenpoint, the Bushwick Inlet, and just go off that pier and maybe try to catch a little schoolie. I'm undergunned for sure. Like I'm fishing pretty lightweight gear. I'd probably need to up my rod weight and probably switch up from a floating line to like a full sinking tip just to even get in the range. So with all of that and with limited knowledge on a lot of it, it's tough to get into. But yeah, I mean, eventually, like, of course, I would love to hook into. I mean, even I think a decent schoolie size on a striper setup for me would be quite a fight.
Definitely. I want to ask a question specifically to Kim and Natasha. What's it like being a female angler in a sport that is predominantly dominated by males? What type of experiences have you had?
I'm gonna say
regards
good
to
and bad. You know, good being that, you know, you have a lot of people who are curious. You know, like, oh, it's very uncommon to see a female, especially independently, pursuing fishing. And, you know, people in New York City will open up, which is something that I love about the city. It's a melting pot of cultures. It's amazing. But then, you know, it can also work against you. I don't know if you've experienced it, but there are people out there who will treat you differently, not in a good way. I I've definitely witnessed, I have like maybe 5 guys fishing around me. A passerby walks by and, wants to ask, oh, like, what are you guys catching? Doesn't come up to me. They always go to the guys. It's like, all right, yeah, I don't know anything. I'm out here looking like an idiot. That's cool. So that happens more than regularly. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think there's the good and the bad. I mean, I haven't had any, like, I would say negative experiences, but I would say generally people are usually shocked that I'm catching fish. I think especially what I'll see, and it's different because I'm usually the only one fly fishing, and so I'll be using much smaller lures or flies, if you will, to catch things. So a lot of the times there'll be a couple guys around me, and I'll be the only one catching because I'm fishing differently, and people are shocked by that, and I think it's like the shock of like, oh, I can't believe you, the girl, are the one who's catching things. I think the biggest thing and that I've noticed recently, I have a friend Ken who Tenkara fishes, who's been this last season going out with me quite frequently, and so I was able to stay out a little later than I would normally in Prospect Park because I had someone with me, and he was kind of shocked that like I had brought that up. I was like, oh, my boyfriend feels really good that I have like a fishing buddy now, and he was like, why? I was like, well, because I don't really feel comfortable in the park after dark by myself, like especially some of the parts that are a little more secluded. And he was like, oh, I never thought about that. And like you said, like the idea of like seclusion and like lone time being special. Like I feel like as a female angler, I don't necessarily have that available to me. I see that as like the biggest downside, and it kind of sucks because, it's just like, I guess, reality,
Carry May spray. It'll buy you a little time.
I mean, even that, right? Like the fact that you have to think about that. That's the only part that, as I've evolved in the sport and like wanted to seek out the stuff that's a little more like in the wilderness or like a little more removed from like in the park, if we're gonna say the footpaths and like traffic. It just sucks that I have to think about that. I would say that's for me the biggest downside.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of politics in terms of, fishing, not in general, obviously, but in terms of like gender differences, and there's also like ethnical differences. I've noticed. But anyway, yeah, it's common sense for us that we have to always be careful.
Yeah.
And I think like Ben from our club has mentioned that he's seen some like shady guys around Whitestone Bridge, like looking for a guy with machetes, and I don't want to witness that. So
Why not?
there are areas that I'll still stay out of because of that. Yeah,
It just sucks that they're always so fishy. It's like
I know. Yeah.
Kim, you've done some pretty interesting solo missions, like to places that normally people would not go at night. Like, could you tell us a little bit about that?
What are you referring to?
Like when you went to Randall's Island at like 2 a.m. by yourself?
Oh, I don't know. Some areas just look fishy, and you want to try them. And then sometimes, you don't want to bring people along because, like, you schlep all the way out there because it's not an easy commute. And, there's no fish. So a lot of it is purely curiosity driven. And then you have areas like Washington Heights along the Hudson, other areas of East River along Brooklyn. Just if it looks really fishy, you gotta try it. That's all. And then you just have to make time for it. That's why. I don't know.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit earlier about ethnic differences and challenges that might present. Where were you going with that?
So I wasn't sure how much of a tangent we can get on when it comes to things, but feel free to chime in. But I've definitely been treated differently. I feel like we have I have 2 things working against me. Sometimes, being female and then being Asian. For example, I went on a family trip to Alaska this summer and met like 3 other anglers who brought their travel rods. figure that, oh, we have something in common. Let's shoot this shit. It's great. That's awesome. Two of them were from Texas and Wisconsin. I asked them what they were catching. They were very excited about it. And then the moment that I started like going off about lures, they just shut down. So I don't know. It was just like very cold and rude, and I thought that was unnecessary. And then and then this one other guy who was from, it was like a black dude from Rochester, New York. He was very excited to meet me. He was like, wow, you're from New York and, you're out here fishing. You brought your own gear. That's awesome. And I love that, like regardless of whatever the fuck you are, whatever background you have, we should just be able to talk about it. Yeah, I don't know. Have you experienced it?
I haven't experienced it. Part of it makes me think maybe, I think fly fishers get a pretty bad reputation. I don't know, undeserved reputation, that they're pretty snobby about the type of fishing that they do. So I feel like when you're on a river, there's usually the hatred that you feel is for like the dude who's fishing with worms, or they call, people who fish with lures like metal chuckers or something like that. So I don't know that I've really embedded enough in that culture to feel kind of like an insider enough to be like outside of that inside circle. I feel like I am usually like, again, people with the fly fishing, it's usually different enough that there's like I'm a curiosity in a way. But I have noticed an uptick of fly fishers this year specifically. I used to never see anyone. And now every time I go out, I'm usually seeing at least like 2 other people, which is pretty cool. Like I've been seeing people getting fly casting lessons in the park, which is neat. And yeah. So I don't know. I'm glad I haven't faced it. I'm sure at some point I probably will.
Are female anglers more of a rarity in Australia?
Not really. I mean, there's a couple of social media famous ones, right? And I think they've used that for their own kind of branding and marketing, but I don't think so, to be honest. You do see that. I mean, there's 2 types. There's a couple of different types of fish. So the really keen, your weekend warrior fisher, right? And they're kind of, they've got their boat. They're very kind of disciplined. But then you've got your, groups. They're out, whether it's a family, etc. You do see, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's very common, right? But there is some absolutely, I'll use the word again, there's some gun female fishers in Sydney. And on all calibers, and whether that's fly fishing, to sports fishing for pelagic marlin, they're very switched on. I mean, and I think they've kind of used, and it's a good thing, right? It's a great thing for the sport. And, they've got probably the most followers on social media because it's like, wow, okay, it's a female, but also they're actually switched on. They're getting some very impressive fish. And they're doing it on their own, in their own boats, right? It's a handful, but I think it's been a good statement. It's been a refreshing change, right? Because you're seeing, and they actually know what they're talking about. They are very switched on. You think, hey, hats off to that. We'd love to see more of that.
I mean, I think we're growing. I think the women joining fishing is like probably the highest, what's on the rise, right? I think it's one of the biggest demographics. I'm assuming all the fishing companies are going to be coming after very quickly.
And it is true because the brands see that as a fantastic selling tool as well, right? They're sort of saying, hey, that we're branching out. We've got, we can actually diversify our catalogue to a different demographic. Great. Let's put more marketing behind that.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing. It's absolutely a fantastic thing.
Yeah, and I think Kim and Natasha, you 2 have probably gotten more publicity than like most other anglers in the city. I mean, I've seen Kim in the Times. You've been in multiple magazines, right?
New York Post and New York Magazine with you guys.
But yeah, why do you think that fly fishing has this reputation as being kind of like a snobby aspect of the sport, as you said before?
Because they are. I mean,
why is that though, you think?
I think a lot of it is the mentality of like the match the hatch mentality, like from the beginning to the end. You learn about it at the beginning as like you have to learn this to catch the fish properly. And I think as you get into things like fly tying, like all the way from like, okay, not only do you understand it, you're now creating the thing that imitates it. You're fishing it the right way to fool the fish, you catch the fish, and it's like this complete cycle. And I don't know, like I myself don't necessarily feel that way. Like and maybe this is something we could get into later. Like I enjoy watching a lot of like the YouTube fisher people who are not fly fishermen. In fact, I've probably learned a lot over the last couple years from watching their videos on how fish behave and what have you. But I do think that a lot of the fly fishing guys, especially the older ones, see fly fishing as like the purest expression of the sport, in which you really are truly imitating everything in their diet throughout the water column, throughout the day. Like there is a little bit more of, I think, the hunting mentality that like the boat doesn't count. Like there is a little bit about like putting in the time to learn to read the water, to find the fish, to stalk the fish, to fool the fish. Especially I think when there's a couple guys I follow on Instagram who are trophy trout fishermen who, you know, they'll go back to the same spot, like night fishing months at a time until that one fish they know that's there and they get it. I mean, there is something to be said about that I think is a little bit different than, you know, someone who's tournament bass fishing or what have you. So I think that's the reasoning behind it, but I can only speculate because I don't really consider myself part of that crowd. In fact, I think I'm a pretty poor fly fisher. Like when I go like trout fishing, it's pretty apparent. But you know, it's funny.
But also, like, how often are you able to get out trout fishing?
Not
You know?
often.
So
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next question. As urban anglers, like, what would you say are some of the top challenges that we face?
Accessibility. Yeah.
I think it's actually kind of like perception. Most of the time, like I'm happy to chat with people and explain what's going on. But I think depending on the mood and depending on, you know, like you said, how your day's been and you're just looking to get out and be alone a little bit.
Yeah.
It's tough in a city like New York, right? And so I think that's for me the hardest part. Like I would love to go trout fishing and be alone, but I'm here. I'll make do with what I have. And you know, sometimes it's you know, the fourth kid on a Saturday who's just like, can I try fishing? Like, what are you doing? Is it, you know, in the first three, you're like, all right, gung ho. And then it's like the parent just won't take the kid away. And then sometimes I think that is the toughest part, at least for me.
How do you deal with that?
I just stop responding.
What do you think?
I would definitely say just getting to the spots.
Yeah, that's what
you
I meant by
know, I don't
accessibility.
think any of us own cars, so a lot of the times I'm relying on guys from the club to pick me up and get me to the spot. Otherwise, I'm on the subway or in an expensive Uber.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, but just getting to the spot is usually the toughest thing, because a lot of the spots that we fish are, in terms of saltwater, are off the beaten path. You know, like I'm thinking like tomorrow, if I wanted to go to Great Kills, Staten Island to fish, like what would go into me getting there, right? Like,
And then even then, to tack on top of the accessibility is that even if you can get there, it's like, is it allowed? Will people chase you out or ticket you? Because I was told recently that Great Kills, they were getting stricter or something. Someone told me that recently. And then areas of Battery Park that had like honey holes of fishing, you know, they basically don't permit particular areas anymore, which is too bad because I used to fish those areas.
yeah,
So it's getting there, and then is it allowed?
yeah.
Yeah.
And both of you usually fish with artificials, right? So yeah, another problem for me is like I'll fish with artificials, but a lot of the times I'm trying to use either live bait or dead bait that I cut up, and it's like, well, how am I going to keep this? How am I going to keep these dozen eels alive, going from my neighborhood in the middle of Brooklyn to, you know, Staten Island to fish, or to Rockaway to fish, or whatever it is. So yeah, that does present its own set of challenges. But yeah, I mean, we get through it, and I think in a way, it adds to the rewarding factor of when you finally get that fish, because it's
Yeah.
not just like you paid a fare, you got on a boat, they mark the fish on the radar or sonar or whatever, and you just drop your line down and you're on. It's like, no, you have to really put in the time, especially from, you know, land in terms of saltwater fishing. I mean, Kim, how many hours would you say you've logged saltwater fishing from shore?
Too many. I mean, not as many as, you know, other shore fishermen, but I really savor those schoolies.
Yeah.
Really savor them.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. So what are let's go around real quick. What is your personal best fish, fresh or salt?
Personal best.
And by personal best, it doesn't even have to be like the biggest fish you've ever caught, just the one that you're most proud of.
Why don't you come back to me?
Okay.
For me, it was absolutely, I've been chasing my big mulloway off the surf for a long time, and I managed to achieve that back in June this year, the winter run. And funny enough, it was on the night I wasn't chasing mulloway, which is very typical of mulloway fishing. I was chasing small bluefish to use as live bait or bait for the next day, and I got my big mulloway chasing bluefish instead. So that was my highlight, absolute pinnacle so far. So, was 28 kilos, whatever that is in pounds. What's that, 55, 60 pounder?
I mean, it looked massive
Yeah,
in the pictures.
yeah,
it looked
yeah.
like it was at least almost
It's
4.5
because the
feet,
unexpected
5 feet
fact.
long.
Yeah, the unexpected factor of, okay, you know, this is a stingray, this is a big shark. What the hell is
Yeah,
this?
tell me
Let's
that story. So you're.
It's interesting because
yeah.
it was one of those nights. It was a 6-hour drive north of Sydney. We went to an area which we knew they're more frequently up there. I remember this was a Wednesday night. I said to my brother, you know what, 6-hour drive, let's just go to the cabin and rest, watch some football. My brother, I can tell he was itching to go for a fish. I could tell. I said, okay, let's go for 1 hour at least, get some bluefish bait, and we'll target mulloway the next night. So we went down very close to the lodge we were staying. We're talking about a pretty busy area, you know, there's a lot of lodges there, the main town. Very nice surf beach, had very nice formations. 1 hour in, I kept saying to my brother, let's just go back to the cabin. I've had it. I'm so zoned out. I'm not fishing tonight. I'm not really here. And that's basically when I thought, I'd stuck my pole in a little tube saying I'm going to sit back and enjoy the stars here tonight. And I saw the rod buckle over. I thought, well, this must be a decent bluefish, which ended up being a 35-minute tussle up and down the beach. And I called it everything but a mulloway. It's a shark. It has to be a big stingray. What the hell is this thing? I've never fought anything like this in my life. Until my brother got the visual of it and didn't say anything to me on purpose to not freak me out. It's like, just whatever you do, just take it really easy. I'm like, why? What is it? He goes, just do nothing. Just take it easy. Until he lifted up out of the water. And I was just like, Jesus. So those factors of not expecting it, I wasn't even chasing that night. And then that happens on that night when really we were going fishing for him the next night. So you factor in all these things like, so we went from complete boredom to I don't want to be here to complete delirious, euphoric, like what a rush, you know what I mean? So that's the kind of nights you'll never forget in your life, right?
Yeah.
So that's what every session I've spent, you know, for years not catching them, it's quickly all erased and forgotten on that one night. So it's a big moment. It was a very proud moment.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
My story's gonna sound awful now.
No, it's not.
No, I think my most memorable is so I had gone with my uncle. I'd caught 2 trout, right, and then I was skunked the next 7 times. And I think any sane person probably would have given up, but I was like real into it. I got my waders, and I was back home for Christmas, and there's like a tiny little creek that runs through the town my sister lives in Damascus, Maryland. And it was above where everyone had told me I'd have the best chance at wild brown trout. And I went and I found a little pocket. There were definitely fish. The water was less than a foot. And I was sight fishing, so I could see this fish. And I was like fly after fly. And finally I tied on, it was like a olive beadhead woolly bugger. And I like stripped it through the pool, and I saw the trout come take it and turn, and I lifted my rod tip, and there's a sound that line makes when it comes off the water, that like zing, and I heard it and I felt it come tight, and I literally yelled out in the middle of the woods to myself, yes! And I came in and landed it. I have that picture pinned to the wall by my bed, but I think that trout is still the most memorable. It was like the first one that I like found and got the fly, like did everything myself. So I mean that still makes me smile.
I love that.
Kim, you're up.
Talking New York City fish or?
Yep.
All right. Can I say two?
Sure.
All right. One's from that supermoon night, just because we were putting in time, and I honestly lost like 5 fish until I scored a 38-inch one, and Gil was telling me let the fish take it, even though I would hear my reel just go zzz, like 5 times. So that was really rewarding for me, especially because I didn't have a gaff, we didn't have a net available, so I basically monkeyed over a fence and down the rocks to grab this 38-inch striper and then haul it over my back. And I'm like 5'3", so it kind of looks ridiculous. So, just like scramble up the rocks again. And it's like a trophy for me in that way. And the other being just catching carp in Central Park with my brothers. Kind of made a scene out of it in July in a way because my brothers aren't huge anglers, so and then being in Central Park, naturally there's just a lot of people around that time of year. Got onto a carp, hear that reel scream zzz, multiple times, and naturally we're getting excited. A lot of people crowd us on the bridge, and then as I'm going down to the shore, got into the net, and it's just a great time. That's all.
They're so fun.
Yeah,
So,
a lot of them around too. People don't think it though.
Yeah, definitely. Kim is one of the best chefs I've ever had the pleasure of eating with or eating from. How would you describe that? I don't know what to say there.
All right. Well,
She
first
makes
off,
really good fucking food, and she cooks like the fish we catch in very unique ways. Like, what was that thing you did with the flounder that time with the bay leaves? Was
it was like I can't remember, some kind of banana leaves.
banana leaves.
Then I used like a bunch of like Thai seasonings, grilled it up whole, and that's just like an epic time with you, Mario, Jim, and Cassandra. But honestly, a lot of like the creativity and the opportunities are driven because you want to share that fish. So it sounds cheesy, but it's like, oh, it's awesome. It's like a cultural thing for me too, because I get to share this experience with you. You get to share your stories. I get the opportunity, privilege, to cook it up and like take care of you like you're my family. So how can I change it up every time that you may want to share a fish with me? And that's been numerous times throughout the summer. So for that, I'm happy to show my gratitude, stewing it up, grilling it, roasting it, whatever.
Yeah, we've had some amazing meals for sure, and I'm getting hungry just thinking about them. What would you say, like, out of all the fish in our local waterways, what would you say your favorite one to eat is, and why?
I'm gonna say tog, very meaty. You get a lot from it. You could do a lot with it. But also sea robins, they have a really good white meat. I think it's underrated. It has a huge head, and maybe filleting it can be not ideal, but I don't know, it's just delicious, clean, good.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't even eat those, right?
No, it's considered to be a trash fish, like a bycatch of like fluke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why people don't care for it. It's
Yeah.
good.
I think they're really cool looking.
They
Yeah.
I told Dennis, I was like, yo, even if I catch one of those as a first saltwater fish, I'd be so stoked.
Yeah. Gotta get that fly to the bottom though. That's all.
Yeah, somehow. Yeah. Although I have seen them blitzing at the surface before.
Oh,
once.
yeah?
Yeah, it was very weird.
Oh, wild! Where?
I thought it was like bluefish. It was out on Long Island.
Oh, that's
It
so
was actually
cool.
during, Bryant from the club. Mm-hmm. It's during his wedding. They got married on a beach.
Oh, my
and
God.
All of a sudden, we're looking out there, and there's like 40 guys, with their poles out. And I figured there was some type of like bluefish blitz, bass blitz, or something. And they're like, it's a sea robin blitz. And I was like, what? I didn't even know that existed. But
I can just imagine as they're saying there are dudes, you just hear that splashing and like fishermen going crazy. And
Yeah.
like, if I were Brian, I'd be like, I love you, but also what's going on out there?
exactly. Spiro, what about you, man? What are some of your favorite fish to eat in your part of the globe?
I actually like my bluefish. So very simple. We didn't get them as big as you guys, but the smaller ones I find are very tasty, very reliable. We have,
Hold on. What's awesome is that we can catch bluefish here,
yeah,
here, Sydney, and over by you in Florida.
yeah.
But anyway, keep going.
I think they're under, because, I mean, in saying that, I'm sure it's the same here. It's how you know, bluefish back home, hey, you're going to eat it, you're going to keep it. You're going to keep it and eat it in the same day, right? Fresh. In terms of freezing it, it's not the fish to freeze, right? But then we have what we call our beach whiting that are very sought after. We have flatted, which is kind of variation of a flounder or fluke, kind of at a very unique shape, and sea bream. So, and I love my calamari fishing. I've absolutely become obsessed with southern calamari fishing.
I've seen you
It's my
posting a
new
lot of
bug.
pictures of those.
Yeah, and it's kind of like one of those things where I used to look down on, you know, what we call eggy fishing, right? Japanese style fishing. But now once you get, it's kind of like the addiction. It's like, man, I'm on this addiction. I need more squid. I can't get enough squid. But
So
it's amazing because...
You jig them?
Yeah, you jig them, and some of these ones, especially in winter, the southern calamari, you know, they're 2-3 kilo, you know, and they can pull some string. And actually, once you get into the rhythm of throwing out a squid jig and getting these guys to latch on, it is a whole different ball game. And it's absolutely, and now I understand the addiction. You know, I'm now buying eggy rods, all the eggy fancy Japanese videos, and it's like, and it's an exciting new style. So I love my squid as well, right? Fresh, you know, salt and pepper calamari rings. Oh, you know, or stuffed squid. So
That
that's
sounds
kind
really
of a
good.
new bonus.
really good, yeah.
So, yeah. So, and it's actually picking up even back home now. There's a lot more eggy fishermen, eggy fishing techniques, and everyone's getting into eggy fishing. So, pretty exciting.
What's like the biggest that they get?
So, down in Melbourne, I'm not sure if you all know where Melbourne is, which is down south, so southern Australia. They go very big. So, not like the Humboldt squid that I think you guys get here or somewhere around here. So, but these, you know, we're talking 3-4 kilo squid, and like I said, they can pull some serious string.
Yeah.
And they're aggressive in winter, so they're spawning, and so, you know, and there's, you know, if you have 3-4 poles, and you know, everything's bending over at the same time when you find them, and
Yeah.
it's pretty exciting fishing, to be honest. Half the fun's, you know, not getting inked. You know, that's half the dodging the whole ink thing.
Really?
You know, that can be pretty, you know, on a big squid, that's like, there's a lot. You don't realize how much ink there is until it's all over you. Like, that's a lot of ink.
Have you
Like,
gotten inked?
I've been inked. It's part of the process. You know, you can't start, you know, squid fishing or eggy fishing if you don't get inked. But then there's an absolute technique into how not to get inked, the way you handle them, right? So, but it's pretty exciting.
How do you do that?
So you basically, if you've got a squid coming in, you try and lift him up, if you can lift him up, and pick him up by the jig, and don't get your fingers anywhere near him. As soon as he feels a slight bit of touch from you or from your finger, that's it, you're shot. The bigger ones, obviously, you kind of just turn them sideways in the boat and then let them shoot it out before they come in. But even then, you know, you're going to get the instances where, oh, there you go, he got me. And that stuff sticks. It don't come off.
It
You know, if
doesn't?
it's on your clothes, that's it. It's gone ski.
How's it smell?
It's not that it smells, it's just, it won't come off. It is, you know, it's ink, right? So if you got a really nice shirt, or if you decide to wear a white shirt that day, hey, massive fail, right?
Do you have
your
your
shirt's
squid
finished.
fishing outfit then?
Yeah, all black. Absolutely all black. That's it. That's the easiest way, you know? So,
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's a new, you know, I think as fishermen too, it's interesting you said fly fishing. And I have a view on what you said about the fly fishing and why it's considered snobby. First of all, I've tried it, you know. The first impression though, it's an expensive game, right? Buying
Yeah.
a really decent fly fishing pole and the accessories is like, hold on a second, this cost me over $1,000. You know, I can buy 3-4, you know, artificial rigs, right? And that's, I think, why it gives it also that perception.
Yeah,
That,
that's definitely an obstacle for me.
yeah, you know, five fly fishing outfits with different weights, you know, that's like $5,000. So hold on a sec, that's a lot of money. You know, let alone the, you know, the Klaus and minnows and stocking up and the whole kit. All of a sudden you think, this is expensive. So I think that's definitely one of the reasons it's pursued, even though, you know, you don't have to be rich, but it comes at a cost, right? I think that's a given with fly fishing.
Yeah, definitely. It's
So-
they're very big gearheads, and you know, you can never have too many reels.
I bought a basic fly reel, and I thought I went to the store and I said, okay, I'm new, just want to go do some lessons. Sell me a basic outfit, and it's like, you know, starting at $600. I'm like, what? Because this is a basic outfit. I'm like, hold on a sec, that's the top of the range, you know, artificial kind of rod and reel, right? And that's like, okay, I don't know if this is for me or not. So I think that perception, and also the discipline factor is amazing, right? Fly fishing discipline is like, wow, you know, especially when you're out there, you know, if there's a blitz going on and you're trying to get your fly, it's like, just give me a medal. It's so much easier, right? It's just, but there is a discipline factor to that as well. I think that a lot of guys think, oh, it's all too hard. It's just, yeah, you know, it's just too hard. And if you're really into it, you must, you know, you've got too much time on your hands. It's that bit, and I've seen it from guys back home. They say that. You know, they kind of get in and they kind of think, oh, you know what, the discipline's just too much. You know, I don't have that patience, and they just go back to the easy way. You know.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Different mindsets.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like I said, I enjoyed it while I did it for a while, but then, you know, oh, the wind's up, damn it, you know.
That chase.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
much slower. I will notice that, like, I will stay at a spot and really try to pick it apart. Sometimes people will pass me and, like, run something through a couple of times and be like, oh, nothing bit, I'm going to keep going. But yeah, I mean, there's fish there. It's just...
But, you know, some of the best fishermen back home that have kind of, you know, progressed from the boats to the land-based, and now, you know, they're chasing, like, big mulloway on, you know, on fly. And it's like, it's the pinnacle. Like, you got to, you know, I'm sure it's the same if you got a big striper, right, on fly. It's like, wow, you got that on, you know, that's discipline. You know, I take my hat off to you. There's a lot of guys pursuing that now with their heavier outfits, the sinking lines and finding bridge pylons with the big mulloway, and they're actually getting them on fly now. Wow. That's considered like, you know, wow, take my hat off to you, you know.
I mean, Ruth, like, the stuff she's been catching, like, she's stocking the rooster fish and those big ones. Those are the ones that the fly guys who will go to lodges and spend 2 weeks serving fish. I mean, walking miles for a shot. Not even guaranteed you're going to get one, just a shot to see one, get a fly in front of it. I mean, that's like bucket list stuff.
Yeah.
I can't, even if I could go now, I can't cast that well. There's just so much behind it. Like you said, when everything lines up for that like one moment where you land it. I mean, I hopefully am looking forward to that at some point in my life. It's like the only reason I'd aim to get better at casting is like to have a shot at fish like that. But I mean, it becomes obsessive. Like, my family and friends think I'm crazy. I'm lucky my boyfriend is a good sport. Like, I don't know how many people would do this. He went to pick up something for me for my tournament at Urban Angler and came back with like a set of fly tying tools. I didn't even have a vise at the time, but he knew I wanted to get into it. So he's like, I got these. So, so it is a craze that I think, like, I'm lucky I have a significant other that understands. I know some other people sometimes, maybe not. I think both of you are in good positions with that as well, yeah?
Yep. Thank you, Cassandra. I love you. Yeah, she does give me a lot of leeway to fish a lot. But she also knows that, like, I need it. And, like, the same way Spiro was saying, like, it's his therapy. Like, it's my therapy. It's my church. It's everything to me when I have it.
I mean, everyone has a thing. It's a matter of figuring out what it is.
Yeah, and it's a pretty healthy vice to have, I would say, you know, because you're just out there trying to catch fish in the wilderness, doing your thing. Yeah.
Do you sometimes have people who aren't anglers who call you like a madman for chasing fish? I mean, that goes to like everyone else.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, even people I work with are like, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, what do you think I'm doing? You know?
Oh, and that's another thing. You probably have like non-fishing friends who are like, you're just always catching fish, man. Like, is that all you do? And it's like, no, I don't get out enough.
It gets a bit awkward at times too, right? Because you're in this social, you're the only fisherman. And
Yeah,
you seem to be just fishing all the time. Is that all you do? But it's like,
And catch 'em all the time.
And you can't explain hold on, if you don't get it, you just don't get it, right?
You
It's
can't verbalize
let's just
it.
change the subject because I can't try and explain this. And do you eat everything? And, you know,
Oh, my God.
and it's like, you know what, it's my thing, you know, and it's like, you know, you play football, you go play golf on the weekends, you know.
Golf sucks.
You know, we all have you know, exactly right. I'm like, hey, I don't know how you spend 7 hours sitting up there shooting a ball, right? It's like,
Right?
God, you know,
Fuck
I'd go
that.
mad on the field, right? Yeah. But it's like, yeah, there is that view. If you don't have non-fishing friends, they're like, you know, what's that all about? Like, why are you so into it?
Now that you mention that, I'm thinking about, I'm like, who am I even friends with anymore that doesn't fish? Like,
You just cut them all out.
they just kind of fell off. Like, Ian over here is like one of my best friends from back in the day. Like, I mean, you fished before in Florida, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's
just novelty fishing, you know, just a little bit here and there.
Out on the boats, right?
So, yeah, I've gone out on the boats a few times. I see guys fishing out on the piers and stuff, but I don't know. I don't know enough about it to tell you, what they're using or what they're even trying to catch. You probably know more than I do, because you do your research about Florida fishing from up here and you come down.
Yeah, I've been down before. Florida's amazing. Right now, it's going through a tough time with the quote-unquote red tide, which is kind of bullshit, because red tide is a natural occurrence that comes in from offshore, and the red tide that they're talking about in the media is coming from inshore. There are sugar companies that have their factories around Lake Okeechobee, which feeds out into the west coast of Florida, into the salt water. And certain people, like good old Governor Rick Scott, fucking idiot, he took a massive payment from the sugar companies to allow them to dump all their chemicals into Lake Okeechobee. And now all those chemicals have seeped out into the ocean. He's also done a very good job of controlling the media and making it seem like it's this natural occurrence of red tide, when in reality it's actually what the insiders down there who really know the deal, they're calling it a blue tide, because it's a man-made chemical tide that has pretty much decimated the southwest coast of Florida, to the point where places like Captiva Island, Sanibel.
Yeah, Sanibel's really bad.
Yeah, and these places are places I actually had the chance to fish when I was a kid, and the fishing was just insane. And the
big
guys,
fish over there.
big fish, and the guys I know down there that are like hardcore have told me that place may never rebound from what's happened down there.
Man.
And now what's happened is that the blue tide, the red tide, whatever you want to call it, these chemicals are now in the Gulf Stream, and the Gulf Stream whips around the Florida Peninsula. So a problem that started out on the West Coast is now spreading to the East Coast. And it's going to keep moving. It's going to keep killing fish. And it's all about the money, I guess. I mean, it's pretty amazing that a state that relies so heavily on ecotourism would allow something like this to happen to their waterways. But, what are you going to do? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but that's what's going on down there. But yeah, I mean, you've seen, have you, Ian?
I was out on Sanibel Island for a while. Me and my wife went out there just for like a couple of days off. Went from the East Coast over to the West Coast. And we were out there, and literally as soon as we got out of the car on the shores, you felt like a kind of stinging sensation when you'd breathe. And I started coughing. And I was ignorant to the whole red tide thing at this point. We were just going out there for a few days. Started talking to some of the locals. Why am I coughing so much? Why is my nose running? Oh, red tide. Then I'm walking down the beach, see big fish just washed up on the shore. It was awful, really, it was. And then I went home and did some research on it. And like you said, red tide is a natural occurrence, but now there's been some discrepancy about how man-made the problem is.
Yeah.
And it's really a shame. And now they, like you said, they say it's wrapping around to the East Coast by me. And the beaches are so beautiful down there. It's such a shame that that's happening because of man-made issues.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a shame. And that what you were smelling is the airborne chemicals from that blue tide. And I know quite a few anglers down there who have developed like respiratory issues from
It's serious.
following their passion and continuing to fish, but they're breathing in this shit, and next thing you know, they're bedridden for 3 weeks because they can't stop coughing, and they have like a serious issue with their lungs. So yeah, that's definitely a problem down there. In terms of the New York City waterways, Kim and Natasha, and also like freshwater areas that we fish. Like, how would you say the water quality is?
I'm gonna pop out and grab a drink real quick. Sorry.
Water quality. It's okay. Honestly, it's definitely fishable. I mean, maybe not safe to eat every fish that you may catch out of the Hudson and East River, but it's staining compared to anywhere else. I know in terms of fresh water, there's this concern with algae when it gets warmer, I think.
Yeah. In Prospect, especially, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw that this summer, Natasha.
Yeah, I think Prospect this summer was maybe not as bad as previous. I feel like Central Park sometimes has it worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I fish Prospect more. But I think overall they say it's improving, right? I think last summer we had like a couple of fish kills just because there was such low oxygen in the water. I don't think that happened this year. I know also last year, I think Prospect, their machine that eats the plant in the water, I forget what it's called. It separates it and like chews it up a bit to prevent it all from clumping up. I know that was broken. I think they fixed it maybe. So I feel like it's gotten better. I live on the East River. I live in South Williamsburg and I've lived there for 9 years. And my understanding is that the water quality has gone up quite a bit. I know there's been a couple movements to like build up oyster beds and stuff like that. I'm sure that's helped a lot.
Yeah.
I just think it's funniest when I try to like fish it and people will row by in kayaks and be like, there's like storm drains, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm standing up on a pier fishing and you're sitting in a boat in it, like a kayak. So I appreciate the warning, but why are you telling me? So, I'm not overly concerned about it. Like you said, Kim, I don't think I'd really eat much out of it. But I guess what I hear people who do eat out of there say is that a lot of the fish are migratory species.
Yeah.
So unless it's a true holdover, you're probably not going to be too worried.
Yeah.
And you'd probably have to eat a pretty consistent amount to be worried. Again, I think, be smart. Don't eat out of the Gowanus Canal.
Definitely.
Don't have all your meals depend on fish.
Yeah. No sashimi from the Gowanus.
Oh, damn. It's gonna be my special.
In terms of like preparing your catch, how do you and actually, Natasha, do you enjoy eating fish?
I'm not a huge fish person, but I actually kept my first fish this summer. I was in Normandy in France. And I kept a brown trout. Over there they stock. Their way of fishing is they have all these stocked ponds, and you basically pay a fee and you catch what you keep. And so I kept the trout and took it to a barbecue, and we ate it. And I named him Bobby.
Wait, did I also read that your boyfriend knocked him out?
So the story, I really wanted to harvest the fish and keep it. I was really unsure about the bonking part, and so the deal was I could catch it, my boyfriend would bonk it, which I was surprised how soft it was. I imagined something very violent.
Yeah.
But it was fine. At picnic table, it was done, and then I scaled and gut and cleaned it, and so I think if I fished cleaner water, I'd probably do it more often.
Yeah.
But
how was it?
It was delicious.
How'd you prepare it?
Actually, my boyfriend's friend prepared it. He just put some herbs and some lemon slices and wrapped it in foil on the barbecue. They were like, you should catch more of these next time. I was like, I tried.
How do you like to prepare fish?
Very basic. I like to enjoy the fish for what it is. So if it's the bluefish, I like it whole on the barbecue the same day. So oregano, salt and pepper, barbecue it whole, and then just when it's done, I drizzle a lot of extra virgin olive oil on top, right, like a Mediterranean style, and straight into it. Lots of salt and pepper, lots of rock salt, and that's it. Very simple. Or if I'm going to fry, just a little bit of flour. Again, I use virgin olive oil. Keep it very simple. I want to enjoy the fish for what it is, right? And not you know, I have friends too. Depending on the fish, some fish love it, you know, done in an Asian style, Thai style. I think there's certain fish that do well for that, but otherwise, I like fish that are more coarse in taste personally. Others don't like them. Other people want to know, you know, they want to know that they're, oh, it tastes like chicken, right? It tastes like tuna,
Yeah.
when it's not a tuna. That, you know, it's a different fish, right? There's a mindset that has to be very soft on the flavour. Depending, I mean, I was up in Cairns recently, which is far north Queensland in the tropics, and we caught fish there called passion fruit trout. You know, these things are like next level. Like, you know, apparently they're like worth about $120 a kilo to buy a fillet. They are like the crust of white. And I mean, I get it, you know, I couldn't stop eating this thing. But the same, like when we took one home, I thought we'll eat it. You know, and I said to my sister-in-law at the time, let's keep it very simple. A little bit of butter, salt and pepper, and that was it. And I mean, we just could not stop eating this thing, right? Because we were debating, let's do it this way, but it's like, okay, if it costs this much money, what they're telling us, oh, you know, you don't get them that often, you better enjoy that, you know, that's like the pinnacle. In that instance, we just keep it very simple. Salt, pepper, lemon maybe, you know, oregano, a couple of herbs, but not overly over the top. So, yeah, keep it simple is mine.
The passion fruit trout.
Oh, it is something else, I really tell you.
Sounds
There's coral
amazing.
trout, and then there's like the passion fruit trout, which is like, and we caught about 10, 15 that was ridiculous. We're over a reef, throwing big stick baits, you know, where you get GTs, you know, giant trevally, and we were just getting one after the other. And even the captain was like, I've never seen this before. This is phenomenal. And they were pretty big. So we only kept, I mean, one or two. But he said, you know, enjoy this because we don't get these that often.
You know what we're all Googling as soon as we get home.
Yeah, look it up. And, you know, if you manage to find it somewhere, great. Otherwise, you know, jump on a plane, go over to Cairns and,
Yeah.
you know, get into the tropics.
One day.
So, yeah.
How about you, Kim? I know you prepare fish multiple ways.
I one of my favorites is something that I did recently was make some kind of Cantonese soup out of porgy broth and out of porgy bones and some leftover filet meat that didn't quite hold together. That it was, I don't know, just the flavor profile of that soup with the fish and the vegetables together was just amazing. I can't really describe it unless you try it. One of my favorite ways to serve up fish is whole, would be serving it up taco style. You know, like bluefish, for example, keeping it whole, throw it on the grill, maybe marinate it, rip some of the meat off, and maybe have some sauces available. You know, make the tortillas myself, really easy. It's good stuff. I know that one of your favorite ways is just grilled, especially stripers, and then just slather that thing in barbecue sauce.
That's not what I was expecting.
You know, I catch a lot of heat for putting condiments on my fish.
Yeah. I remember one of the first times that you shared your striper with me. I already marinated and had a little bit of sauce, and then you were like, "You have more of that barbecue sauce?" I'm like, "More?" Like I had to go back and get another bottle. But honestly, you can't go wrong with savoring fresh fish with olive oil, lemons, and herbs. You know, that's
So
really
no,
just a clean way.
no
to
ketchup.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I caught some heat on a YouTube catch and cook for using ketchup, and there's like 200 comments trolling me about it.
Wait, what fish was that?
You could look it up. It's on Elias V's YouTube channel, Trash Fish Catch and Cook.
Was that bluefish?
It was with dogfish and
That's
some
hilarious.
other stuff. It's
That's amazing.
Pretty funny video. I didn't say one word. I just ate, and the two other guys talked. And I just cleaned my plate. And
Yes.
With ketchup.
just kept eating. It wasn't that much ketchup. It wasn't where it comes from really is like, so I learned to fish from my grandfather on my mom's side, and my grandfather on my dad's side also fished, but my grandfather on my mom's side was a lot more of a warmer guy, and like he would take me fishing a lot more, and whenever he would cook fish, there would always be a little ketchup involved. So it was kind of like something I picked up as a kid.
Oh,
and
nostalgic connection
yeah,
too.
nostalgic connection.
That's cool.
Definitely.
No, it's just fun giving you shit.
Yeah, it always is. It's
So
always fun.
classy.
The last question or topic I really want to touch on is this idea of conserving our fisheries sustainability, particularly with saltwater fishing. How do you guys feel about that? Like, I mean, we could focus on striped bass. We could focus on whatever species you want, but
Yeah, striped bass is definitely like the go-to fish around here in our waters. You know, a lot of people like to catch big fish, keep it, and bring it home to the table. You know, share the story behind it, that kind of thing. I personally happen to feel like I've adopted more of the idea of seeing striped bass as game fish. You know, I want them to go back. I want them to grow bigger. I want them to be around for other people to share that enjoyment as well. Yeah, I know that there have been better efforts, especially since the 80s, regarding them. And honestly, if the bigger the fish, to me, the more of a reason to throw it back as well. But
why?
An epic catch for another day for someone else. But also, you know, there's nothing wrong with keeping, you know, a fish and bringing it home to share with people too. So there's no shame in that. None, but just, you know, respect the limits.
Yeah,
And that's all.
yeah. How do you feel about a slot size for the stripers as opposed to being able to keep anything 28 inches or larger? You think a slot size might help preserve some of the bigger fish?
I'm not like what slot, do you know?
Like I'm thinking an appropriate slot size might be something like 24 to 30 inches because usually the smaller fish taste better. Like a 28-inch fish, perfectly legal sized fish, is, in my opinion, the most delicious size striped bass to eat. I find that with the larger fish, the meat can be a little bit mushier.
Oh, I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
Okay.
But see, I bring this subject up, and I will continue to bring it up on future podcasts. Like I'm definitely an advocate for a slot size for
Yeah.
the striped bass.
Yeah.
I mean, in Florida, they did that with redfish and snook, and there's a slot size. Like I went down, I caught my first snook. I think the slot is 28 to 32 inches or 26 to 32 inches. I caught a 33-incher, and I had to send it back. But at the same time, like, there were guys next to me throughout that whole fishing session that were catching trophy snook that they threw back, and they went back healthy, and they're going to get bigger, and other people will catch them. You know, so I'm trying to figure out what the best size would be for the stripers, because I don't think we need to be killing 50-inch plus fish that are going to reproduce.
And especially if they're not being appreciated. You know,
yeah, like a lot of
being thrown out.
people, you know, they'll get
Wasted.
20 pounds of fillets off it. They'll eat, you know, a meal, throw the rest in the freezer, gets freezer burn, ends up getting thrown out anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, I personally don't know enough about it, so I'm going to stay neutral and keep comments to a minimum. But I don't know. Are there any particular?
Yeah, it's
similar
a big
situations?
big topic back home too. So absolutely, there's been especially mulloway and yellowtail kingfish, probably the top two. So especially the mulloway. So they're basically the size limit now has increased on them. We back home in centimeters, so they're now up to 70 centimeters. You can only keep one, and they're talking about reducing kingfish down to 2 instead of 5 per person, and obviously increasing their size limit as well. There's a bit of a view there. So we've been through fisheries and DPI management back home. There's been a lot of fish tagging programs. So it's almost created a bit of a splinter back home, because there's a view that some of that research about the recaptured fish is being used in different ways to, you know, for other agendas, etc. So there is a view from a lot of rec fishers too, especially the commercial charter guys, that, you know, these are warning signs. We're recapturing the same fish from 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That's a worry, because, hey, you know, there mustn't be that many there if we're catching the same fish, right? The other view is that, okay, let's basically, most people to the point of, if they're a big fish, you know what, how many of those you really need? But it has been a huge topic back home. So, and we're actually seeing size limits go up and a reduction in bag limits. And in generally, though, most rec fishers are okay with it. So, because we say, do you really need, for example, 20 bluefish per person?
Yeah.
Are you really going to eat 20 of them?
Yeah.
So, 10 sounds better, right? A mile away over a metre, do you really need 2 of those per person?
Yeah.
One's going to be enough, right? So down to 1. And in general, most people are fine with it. Everyone's pretty supportive of it. If you go on social media, everyone's like cheering, that's a great idea, about time. It's a good thing, right? So it's not a bad thing. So the days of the mass kills and, I think similar to what happens is kind of starting to fade away with the newer generation guys. Most newer generation guys are all about the catch and release, and that's fine. But hey, I like to keep some fish to eat as well.
Do you see a lot of poaching? A lot of poaching?
We do, unfortunately, but it wouldn't be Sydney. It's definitely, if you see the size of Australia, right, and, the rivers we have, it does happen quite a lot. Illegal netting, barramundi up the rivers, up North Queensland, Darwin, there is that constantly. There's a market for our freshwater fish as well because, it's such a vast country and it's very hard to police, right? So, and that's, it sells well in the black market too. It's good fish. It's expensive. It's sought after. If I can buy it cheaper from there, hey, I'm going to buy it cheaper, right? So rather than go through the actual fish market process. So it's not bad, but it's definitely, if you follow this, the DPI site on Facebook back home, they're always putting, all the fisheries are always posting about, hey, crabs being caught here, barramundi nets, illegal gill nets being placed, fishermen fines. That does happen a bit. Yeah.
All right. Well, before we close out, I got one more question for you, Kim. In your opinion, you've been around the club for a while now. You've been a member. You're an OG. You're the president of the Manhattan chapter. To all our listeners who are potentially thinking about joining the club, what would you say some of the main perks of being in the club are?
I think the prominent one for me is finding those crazy anglers. I don't have any fishing friends really aside from the club who are as nuts about the sport. So, why not get your, a new family in a way, connect, over stories and just making new friends, new experiences together. So that's the first thing. And I guess secondly, not only just meeting like-minded anglers, but learning more about the city and what's around. It's something to educate yourself about through other people.
Thank you. And thank all you guys for coming, all the way from Australia, Brooklyn, Florida. Really appreciate you guys being here tonight. It's a very special night for me, so thank you.
You're the man.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
3rd episode in the books. Tune in again next week. We'll be back with some more awesome guests. And if you have any suggestions for the podcast, you can email us at brooklynfishingclub@gmail.com. Please give us a follow at Brooklyn Fishing Club on Instagram. Check us out on Facebook. Just search Brooklyn Fishing Club. And yeah, looking forward to the next podcast.